The day I thought I caught my father cheating on my mother with my grandmother was the day I stopped believing that every family has a happy ending. My name is Emily. I'm 28 years old now, and for more than a decade I refused to tell anyone what happened. Every time I tried, people looked at me with the same expression, a mixture of disbelief and pity. If I had heard this story from someone else, I probably wouldn't have believed it either. But I know what I saw. Or at least, I believed I did. Growing up, my family looked perfect from the outside. My dad, David, was the kind of man everyone admired. He fixed neighbors' roofs for free after storms, coached Little League on weekends, and never forgot a birthday. My mom, Sarah, was an elementary school teacher with the biggest heart I'd ever known. My grandmother Evelyn, Mom's mother, had become part of our daily lives after Grandpa died. We had dinner together almost every Sunday. We laughed. We celebrated. We looked like one of those families in Christmas commercials. But perfection is often just silence dressed up as happiness. Looking back, there were signs. Dad had become quieter. Mom smiled less. Grandma started coming over 3 or 4 times a week instead of once. Nobody questioned it. Until that Thursday. School ended early because a pipe burst in one of the buildings. I decided to surprise Mom by cleaning the house before she got home. When I walked into the driveway, Dad's truck was already there. That made no sense. He was supposed to be working until 6. I unlocked the front door. The house was silent. Then I heard voices upstairs. Soft voices. Whispering. One of them sounded like Grandma. I called for Dad. Nothing. The whispers stopped. I slowly climbed the stairs. The guest bedroom door was almost closed. I could hear someone crying. I stepped closer. The door was open just enough for me to see inside. Dad was standing inches away from Grandma. His hands rested on her shoulders. She looked terrified. He leaned toward her. She reached for his face. Their foreheads almost touched. Then, their lips disappeared behind the edge of the door as they moved closer together. My heart nearly exploded. I stepped backward. The old wooden floor creaked. Inside the room, everything stopped. Dad shouted my name. I ran. I didn't think. I just ran. By the time I stopped, I was sitting alone at the neighborhood park, shaking so hard I could barely breathe. My phone buzzed. Dad. I ignored it. Again. Again. 7 missed calls. 1 voicemail. I deleted it without listening. That evening, Mom came home smiling. She had no idea her entire world was about to collapse. She asked why I looked pale. I couldn't stop crying. Finally, I whispered the words. I think Dad is cheating on you. She frowned. With who? I looked down. Grandma. The color drained from her face. Before either of us could speak again, the front door opened. Dad walked inside. He looked directly at me. Then at Mom. I know exactly what she thinks she saw, he said. And she's wrong. That was the beginning of a war that nearly destroyed every person I loved. Dad denied everything. Immediately. Without hesitation. He looked more disappointed than angry. Emily, he said quietly, you only saw part of a conversation. I yelled back. I saw you. You didn't. I saw you touching Grandma. Mom stood frozen between us. She looked at Dad. Then at me. She didn't know who to believe. An hour later, Grandma arrived. She looked exhausted. The second she walked inside, she hugged Mom tightly. Then she looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry you misunderstood." Misunderstood? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dad explained that Grandma had been having panic attacks since Grandpa died. He said she'd broken down that afternoon and he had been comforting her. Mom nodded slowly. It sounded believable. Too believable. I became the liar. The dramatic teenager. The girl with an overactive imagination. Even Grandma told me I hadn't seen what I thought I'd seen. Nobody believed me. Not one person. Days turned into weeks. The house became unbearable. Whenever I walked into a room, conversations stopped. Dad tried acting normal. Mom tried pretending everything was okay. But nothing felt normal anymore. Then something happened that changed everything. One Saturday, I went looking for batteries in Dad's office. Instead, I found a locked wooden box. Dad had never locked anything before. Curiosity won. I searched until I found the key hidden beneath an old toolbox. Inside the box were dozens of envelopes. Every single one was addressed to Grandma Evelyn. None had stamps. They had never been mailed. I opened one. The first sentence made my blood run cold. "I can't keep hiding this from Sarah forever." Another letter. "I'm afraid Emily is starting to notice." Another. "If the truth comes out, we'll lose everything." My hands were shaking. I knew it. I wasn't crazy. I stuffed several letters into my backpack just as I heard Dad's truck pulling into the driveway. I barely got the box locked again before he entered the house. That night I couldn't sleep. The letters were hidden beneath my mattress. I wanted to show Mom immediately. But something told me I needed to read every single one first. Because whatever secret Dad and Grandma were hiding, it was much bigger than an affair. The next afternoon, while Mom was grocery shopping, I finally read the letters. The first one wasn't romantic. Neither was the second. Or the third. Instead, they were full of guilt, fear, regret. One sentence kept appearing over and over. "She can never know." Who was she? Mom? Me? Another letter mentioned a hospital. Another mentioned DNA. Another simply read, "We should have told her years ago." I became obsessed. I searched every cabinet in the house. Every drawer. Every old photo album. Then I found it. Hidden inside Grandma's attic. A dusty folder labeled private. Inside was a stack of medical records. Birth certificates. Hospital forms. And one envelope with my name written across the front. My hands trembled. I opened it. Inside was a letter from Grandpa. Except he had died 5 years earlier. The letter was written before his death. It said, "If you're reading this, then the truth has finally found you." I could barely breathe. He continued, "Everything your parents did, they did to protect you." Protect me? From what? Before I could finish reading, I heard footsteps downstairs. Someone else was inside the house. I quickly shoved everything back into the folder. The attic door slowly opened. Dad stood there. Neither of us spoke. He looked at the folder in my hands. Then he closed his eyes. I prayed you'd never find that. For the first time. He wasn't denying anything. Instead, he looked relieved. He slowly sat on the floor across from me. Emily, there is something you deserve to know. But once I tell you, our family will never be the same. I nodded. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear it. Then Dad told me the truth. And somehow, it was even more shocking than the lie I'd been believing for weeks. Dad took a deep breath. Then he said something I never expected. I have never had an affair with your grandmother. I laughed bitterly. After everything, that's your explanation? He shook his head. No. The truth is far more complicated. He handed me Grandpa's letter. I continued reading. Halfway through, the room started spinning. According to the letter, the woman I had always called Grandma Evelyn was actually my biological mother. When she was 16 years old, she became pregnant. Back then, her parents feared the shame that would come with a teenage pregnancy. When my mother Sarah was born years later, she agreed to legally raise me as her own daughter. The entire family created one secret. One impossible lie. I grew up believing Sarah was my mother. Evelyn became my grandmother. Only 4 people knew the truth. Grandpa, Grandma, Mom, Dad. They had promised never to tell me unless they absolutely had to. The afternoon I came home early. Grandma wasn't kissing Dad. She had just confessed that she wanted to tell me everything. Dad was trying to stop her. She had broken down crying. He hugged her. She grabbed his face while begging him not to hate her. From the angle where I stood, my mind filled in everything I couldn't actually see. The letters suddenly made perfect sense. The hospital records. The DNA references. The guilt. The sentence. She can never know. They weren't protecting themselves. They were protecting me. Or at least, they believed they were. I didn't know what to feel. Relief. Anger. Sadness. Betrayal. Everything hit me at once. For weeks I had accused my father of something he never did. But they had also lied to me my entire life. No one was innocent. That evening the 4 of us sat together in the living room. Nobody raised their voice. Nobody argued. We simply cried. 4 hours. Mom apologized for not believing me. Dad apologized for keeping the secret. Evelyn apologized for every birthday she had to pretend to be Grandma instead of Mom. I apologized for accusing Dad. But he simply hugged me. You reacted exactly the way anyone would have. It took years for our family to heal. Some wounds never completely disappear. Today I have children of my own. And I made one promise the day my first daughter was born. No matter how painful the truth might be, she will never grow up surrounded by secrets. Because lies don't protect families. They only delay the moment they finally break apart. And every time I remember that Thursday afternoon, I no longer think about what I believed I saw. I think about how dangerous assumptions can be. And how one misunderstanding almost destroyed an entire family forever.